Jonathan Gresham versus Claudio Castagnoli, Ring of Honor World Championship on the line, Death Before Dishonour. Is Jonathan Gresham's world title in threat for the new AEW Ring of Honor new toy? We're going to talk about it in just a second and more. Stay tuned. It's WrstlXtra.
Oh, or should I say hot, because it's a heat wave here in the UK. It's a heat wave in the UK. Highs of 37. I think that's about like 98 Fahrenheit. I'm not used to this madness. I don't like this madness. I'm used to 25 here, which is about 68, I think, Fahrenheit. I should call it Fahrenheit because we don't do them numbers. But yeah, it's crazy here. Speaking of heat, you can see the studio looks hot as well. I kind of did it on purpose. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm reminding myself of this heat. But speaking of heat, Mex mentioned, of course, Jonathan Gresham and Claudio Castagnoli, Cannonoli, or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm first Cesaro, mate.
What it is.
But I know. Unfortunately, it's his government name, so we have to kind of call him by his proper name, you know. But those two face each other. Main event at Death Before Dishonour. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Death Before Dishonour. Which is this weekend. The interesting thing about all of this now is not just them two going at it, which should be a great match. Those two, you know, in some eyes, would be is a dream match for many people. Something I don't think we've ever seen before, as far as I know. But the interesting thing about this is, in the last few days, it's been put out there that there's a possible spoiler alert as to the outcome of this match. Now, what's got people's tongues wagging is that episodes of Dark have already been recorded. And the interesting thing was Jonathan Gresham came out for a match without his Ring of Honor championship in hand. Apparently, it is the first time ever since he won that he's not come out with that championship in hand. Now, people have said, okay, this could be, you know, the spoiler that he's going to lose his championship, and you know these dark episodes are going to come after Death Before Dishonour. But there's also a possibility it comes before, and the fact that it hasn't come out with the belt is just kind of something to get people, you know, keep people on their toes, get people talking, probably, you know, some interest. The reason why we're talking now about the whole thing, to get people talking. I don't know what to make of this. This is a very difficult one to predict and to make sense of. What do you think it could be? Have you seen or heard anything else to make you think differently? Like what's going on?
I mean, for me, if it is factual that he came out to wrestle matches in front of obviously a live crowd for Dark, a recorded crowd, but a live crowd for Dark, we have seen that Dark for this week has been aired. Meaning that with the pay-per-view being on this weekend, anything else that is to follow is an accurate timeline.
Yep.
So you would think that, you know, they could just be doing that so that there is no spoilers or whatever the case is, or to throw people off. AEW have been known to do that, kind of misguide you, so the booking won't be so predictable. But I mean, 1 on 1 equals 2, right? It looks like it's him, you know, no longer as champion. And to be honest, not that the spoiler has influenced my decision, but my big thing this past week, once this match was announced, obviously on Rampage, it makes business sense to make the man that has spent so many years in WWE, mainstream product, the face of a company that firstly, you're looking to kind of launch into a streaming site, and I'm not sure whether I've got this correct. I don't know if they've sorted that streaming deal out. I know that the Death Before Dishonour is going to be on a streaming service, but I don't know if like regular Ring of Honor TV has been sorted out yet.
Right.
But they basically done this at the inception with AEW. There was names like Pac, Hangman, that they almost teased that these are going to be the guys in this company going forward.
True.
We know Kenny Omega is who he was by the time he came to AEW. He's a made man sort of thing. They put the title on Jericho. Because he was the face that they knew and that people would recognize and take to. So if they want Ring of Honor to do basically something similar and grow and stuff, I guess Cesaro is that option. And I think you might have heard in the last week that this was the spot Cesaro was supposed to debut in.
Yeah.
He was never supposed to be. So if it was almost going to be a surprise, who's going to be my challenger at Death Before Dishonor? Let's be honest. He wouldn't have come into a main event slot and lost. So
no, not at all. This
is almost always the case. It was always going to happen. It is somewhat disrespectful to Gresham, you would say.
Somewhat.
Pushing him to one side and doing this. But as long, for me, there's potential in this actually working out for Gresham. If they follow through and it's like a case of that's my title, I'm gonna win it back, and eventually down the line he beats Cesaro for it back. It depends to what ends they really want to establish Ring of Honor and where they want Ring of Honor to sit in the hierarchy of promotions, if you like, because I thought they would have been happy with just letting it kind of nestle where it is, but maybe they've got bigger aspirations for it, hence why they want quote unquote bigger name to be their world champion.
This is a very tough one because everything you just said about the business aspect of it all makes sense. Me being a massive Jonathan Gresham fan and waiting kind of almost the second we knew that, Ring of Honor as it was about to, fall apart, I guess. Everyone was like, right, Gresham to AEW. That's all we wanted to see. That's what everyone wanted to see. We've now got that, but not in the way that we expected. Maybe not even in the way that we wanted necessarily. But as soon as we found out that Tony Khan had bought Ring of Honor, right, we knew, all right, Gresham's already the champion. He's, for the last 3 or 4 months up until that announcement, has been defending the championship here, there, and everywhere, all over the world, Europe, UK, US. Indie promotions and all the rest of it. So he's already the face of Ring of Honor. So it just made sense to us that you just carry on and continue him being the face. But to that end, again, what you're saying about the business side of things makes a lot of sense because, of course, Cesaro or Claudio is the more known face, in general, of course. But I guess for me, as you said, there feels like a level of disrespect a little bit when it comes to Gresham. So as much as we've seen him on AEW and he's defended his title, there's not necessarily been a focus. It's kind of just been like a backstory type of thing, almost like we're just kind of giving this guy a bit of a time. It's almost like an exaggerated appearance on Dark. You know what I mean? Like there's no real focus to it. It's just there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're just having him there. He's not necessarily faced the biggest people on in the game. And, most of the time that he's spoken, he's definitely not spoken in the ring. It's all been backstage with Tony Schiavone or the other guy. And
just to add to your point, he hasn't wrestled on Dynamite. It's all been Rampage appearances. And that Battle of the Belts thing that I don't know why they run it because they clearly don't care about it, but yeah.
Yeah, of course. All of that. So all of that's happened and we're kind of like, right, do we even care about Gresham? And it's now quite obvious that they don't. So in my mind, I would have preferred it to be a thing where, or for me, the balance would come where, yes, you have Claudio face him and maybe they have a few matches over time and then he eventually wins. Not the first match that he has.
Yeah.
But then, given the circumstances that he was always supposed to come in as probably a surprise opponent on the night, and that was supposed to be his debut match, he definitely would have won. It would have been very ridiculous for him to come in like that and not win. But then the flip side is there still could be a chance to establish or to try and establish Gresham a little bit more. But for me, it's, Claudio wins, he becomes Ring of Honor champion. It happens in whatever way. We've now got a heel Gresham, which kind of came out of nowhere as well.
Yeah.
Another reason why I feel like it's a little bit almost or adds to the fact that it's a bit of a disrespect, like it just kind of came out of nowhere. But we've now got a heel Gresham. Of course, we've already seen that Cesaro's got the fans behind him and all the rest of it. So it's face versus heel. And, as a heel, as you would expect, he's not going to take a loss very lightly. He's going to come back for him, attack him at some point, blah, 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 and we'll get a rematch or something along the line.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how we establish Gresham, and he maybe eventually wins it back, whether it's from Claudio himself or someone else later on. Maybe we'll do it like that. So that can work. But for me, there's still kind of in the back of my mind this whole thing of, why didn't we establish Gresham? Why didn't we establish Gresham? Probably even if the Claudio thing was, the Claudio win for the championship was the thing, there was still time to establish Gresham more than what they have. And I think the worrying thing about this now is I'm hoping it happens on the night, but we still don't have any kind of concrete news about any kind of weekly ROH TV.
Yeah.
That's the worrying part for me. Again, come the weekend, come the show, we'll probably know. We'll probably have something either towards the end during the show or in the post press conference afterwards. Maybe we'll get some big announcement about all of that. But until that happens, it's worrying to know what the future, or the short-term future is for anyone in Ring of Honor or associated with Ring of Honor. Because even looking at the other matches that are on the card, Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal, for example, that's been happening, but it's kind of, again, very similar, kind of just in the background type of madness. You've got the women's stuff going on. They probably have more TV time than anyone else, which is quite surprising.
I was going to say,
very surprising.
Martinez has been on Raw, on Dynamite more than Gresham has. Well, Gresham hasn't been on Dynamite, and as well Wheeler Yuta as the pure champion.
Wheeler Yuta as well, yeah, of course.
FTR as the tag team champions. They're actually showcasing more of their other divisions and titles more so than the world champion.
Further adding to this disrespect that I'm feeling.
Yeah, so it's the world champion hasn't even been on Dynamite, let alone talked, had a segment, wrestled. So it is very weird when you put it like that. And SDK08 says here in the chat, big up everyone that's watching live. He says, outside of Claudio being the star, it makes no sense for him to beat Gresham.
It does make sense, but it hasn't. Again, this is something I've found quite often with AEW, and I think maybe more recently than their whole span of time, that things just seem to be happening out of nowhere. There seems to be very little establishment of things before the big match or whatever it is. It kind of just happens, and then we do 2 weeks of kind of leading up to, and it still kind of feels out of place. But yeah, going back a little bit back to this whole thing of that air of disrespect towards Gresham. I remember when him and Baron Black were establishing Terminus.
Yeah,
and they had their a few interviews. One with Sean Rossap, one with myself. Thank you for saying that. Where Gresham actually said this in both interviews, where he was saying how obviously in his time as a wrestler, obviously with him being as short as he is, I think he's like 5'4", 5'5".
Yeah.
And he's felt that neglect because of his size, partly because of his races. I know he said he's felt that too. Do you think that has anything to do? I know this is AEW, that those types of things aren't really, a big problem as we kind of well know it is in like WWE, for example.
Yeah.
Do you still think that has some kind of bearing on the way he's been used, or I guess misused?
Like you're saying, I would like to think not, given the setting, i.e. AEW. I like to think that's not been an issue. Furthermore, he is not currently, as we know, an AEW exclusive talent. He's Ring of Honor and all of that kind of stuff. For me, I just think that they may be choosing the star power and the name valued guy. And at the same time, as you were saying just a second ago, it's weird to me because in AEW, and I would argue this doesn't even happen so much. I feel like they're quietly trying to get rid of this, but they have the ranking system in AEW. Now, even that, FTR have been ranked number 1 in AEW tag team division for maybe about 4 or 5 months now.
Right.
And they haven't had a world title. We've got a whole new tag champions, which we'll talk about later.
We'll talk about that, of course.
FTR are just nowhere, holding everyone else's belt, but haven't had their AEW tag championship match yet. So the rankings, I feel, are maybe not so active as they once were. And it's crazy to me that someone that kind of implemented the rankings over here in his sister company now, he's literally just shot somebody to the world title WWE style. Like, if this is in WWE, people will be crying like, oh, how has he just become number 1 contender and walked into the main event and this, that, and the other? This has happened here. Are we letting it go because it's AEW Ring of Honor, or what? Like, what's the reasons? And obviously, like we're saying, it seems as if Gresham is going to be collateral damage for this decision.
And that's the hard part, to think that Jonathan Gresham is collateral damage. For a guy that's, gone through whatever he's gone through in order to establish himself, firstly, in Ring of Honor, to then establish or re-establish the pure championship in Ring of Honor, and then establish himself as a Ring of Honor champion, and continue to do that once Ring of Honor has, disappeared, more or less, to then lose, not necessarily at the first, the first opportunity. He's had defenses already, like I think at least 2, or kind of unified the Ring of Honor championship, then had 1 or 2 defenses and stuff like that.
This is the first opportunity that matters, though. Like, if we're completely telling the truth, because it looks like I said, there seems to be either this is on some type of streaming service, or like you're saying, the announcement of a streaming service is imminent. So this is the one that matters in terms of his title run. And what is looking like is about to happen, it's about to happen.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think. I mean, we don't know. Again, this whole thing of him walking out with no championship, and possible spoiler alert, and we're not knowing exactly what's going on, and blah blah blah. We just don't know until the show actually happens. But it's not looking great, given everything leading up to the match, given everything that we've seen and heard of so far. It's not looking great, and if it turns out the way we are expecting it to, I just don't know what then happens with Gresham. And it's just worrying, because at one point, again, as I said before, like, we had Gresham, everyone was talking about Gresham versus Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson even. You know what I mean? Everyone was talking about that's the match that needs to happen in AEW. That's the first match he needs to come out with, and all the rest of it. So then it be who's just collateral damage to Claudio. Yeah. Kind of just sounds wrong. It just sounds wrong. While the business part of it kind of makes sense of it, it just still sounds wrong for me.
And I mean, just on another level, like, is, I hate to say it, is Claudio a world champion? Albeit Ring of Honor, is he a world champion? Like, I think he's flirted with it. He's had opportunities to do some stuff here and there, and we all know what department he's lacking in, so we won't beat a dead horse about it. But like,
because even with his promo with Jake Hager the other day before they, I was like, yeah, Jake's probably the one that's got the better skills, even though his skills aren't even that great either.
Ain't that great either, yeah.
That it kind of made me not even made me see, it kind of reestablished why it made sense he never went that step further in WWE. As much as we all wanted it, as much as he's great in the ring, absolutely amazing in the ring, I just knew exactly why the higher ups in WWE thought, maybe not. But at the same time, given this new setting, given his new environment, and the people now in charge, and the general aspect of how AEW works and all the rest of it, he can make it work. But again, it's just this whole thing of there was no, as he had his amazing debut and he's had matches since and blah blah blah. But I still don't think it's enough to say, boom, this is a world champion. A few more months, maybe end of the year, possibly. Not right now. Just not right now.
I'm the jury's out in my opinion. Let me get to some of these comments. SDK08 says, "How did Mercedes and John get the same storyline for their upcoming title matches?" Let's call a spade a spade. It's the truth.
Very true.
I think they'll probably get away with it right now while Ring of Honor is still to establish its own show, but it's the truth. Fred Wright says, which championship is more prestigious, the Ring of Honor or the AEW championship? I would say the Ring of Honor championship is more prestigious than the AEW championship.
There's an argument there in terms of longevity. Ring of Honor for sure. Of course, you look at some of the the old champions that they've had before, but AEW has far surpassed. In my mind, in general, has far surpassed Ring of Honor, and that happened very quickly. So there's an argument there, but you can say either or, I guess.
NK says Claudio is 100% a Ring of Honor world champion. So I agree that he is the profile of person.
Yes.
But my questioning is, for them to make him world champion straight out of the gate, it kind of makes me feel that they want Ring of Honor as an entity to be a bit more big time than we have previously known Ring of Honor. Right. Which that makes me then think, okay, if Ring of Honor is going to cross over to some sort of mainstream audience, then is Claudio the guy? And that's why we start looking at his qualities. In terms of wrestling ability and what Ring of Honor is known for, this pure style, yes, we know that.
Of course.
But it's whatever Ring of Honor is going to look like in the future, does he fit the profile? Is more of
it's a very difficult question, because even looking at Gresham, even if the kind of profile that we're probably kind of thinking Ring of Honor is going to go down, or probably Tony Khan wants it to go down, does Gresham fit the world champion?
Yeah, it's this question as well. Yeah, it's true.
I mean, there's a question of that as well. So it's very difficult. I think the issue really is they really need to establish what Ring of Honor actually is and going to be. And I think that will help answer our questions as to who should be the face, or the top guys and all that kind of stuff. But if we kind of wanted it to stay as it was, still Gresham for me.
Yeah. SDK08 says Claudio is defo a Ring of Honor world champion, but not at the expense of Gresham.
That's my point, actually. More than anything else, that's definitely my point.
Big facts, yeah. So I mean, ideally going forward, Claudio may be someone to help obviously establish the brand, the new brand of Ring of Honor, the new ways there. But I've always said, we've got a lot of talent coming through, even the likes of Utah and Daniel Garcia and Lee Moriarty. These are guys that I want to see one day as Ring of Honor champion before they really can sink their teeth into something in AEW. Not so much, and I mean this with all due respect, not so much giving people world titles because maybe in their career they've never won one and their careers are winding down. Right. And like we're saying, he is very much the right candidate for a world championship at Ring of Honor. Let me just caveat that with at Ring of Honor.
Yeah, definitely.
But,
definitely.
Yeah, I think like we're saying, the direction of the product will kind of determine if this is the correct move.
Yeah, very true. And that needs to be established very, very quickly. And I hope to God we get some level of answers by the end of the weekend, if not the show itself, but at least by the end of the weekend, we have something to kind of run with, or some kind of future aspirations for Ring of Honor. Speaking of champions and new champions, we'll keep it with AEW as well. We also have new tag team champions out of nowhere, but a good surprise with Swerve and Keith Lee. Of course, Swerve in Our Glory. I'm still not too sure about that name, but we'll run with it anyway. They won a triple threat tag team match against Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs and the champions who were the Young Bucks, ending the Young Bucks' second reign. I think it was just like 28 days, 32 days, something like that.
28.
Yeah, kind of out of nowhere. Nice surprise. Very good match. Very good match. Very well, very well told story within the match. Of course, Swerve pinned Ricky Starks, not any of the Bucks. So we've got the potential of the Bucks kind of saying we were never beaten, possibly, maybe, some kind of rematch or whatever. But there was also this whole little thing now as well on Twitter. Always Twitter comes out with stuff and whatnot, and have to nitpick at every little thing. They're not wrong for saying this though, because the argument is that Ricky Starks was not the legal man. It was still, I think it was still Nick, one of the Jacksons at least, who was the legal man. But Tony Khan, in his Twitter wisdom, jumped on Twitter and said all of this stuff is BS. He actually used that word on his Twitter. Why, I don't know. But then said the referee's decision is final. He could have just said, "Don't worry, guys, the referee's decision is final," and left it at that. He had to go the Tony Khan further step and say all that.
Flex.
For what reason, I don't know. Tony and his Twitter fingers. What do you make of that whole thing of it not being a legal man and all that kind of thing? Does it even matter? Is it an issue? Should they kind of continue that as a possible story? What do you think should happen in this?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, terrific match, brilliant main event. And yeah, just like NK was alluding to in the comments there, that we asked for this kind of unpredictability, and no way I saw this happening. Pleasantly surprised by the end of the match. In the last 5-10 minutes of the match, the near falls were moving mad. I just was thinking, who's walking away with this title? It just didn't make sense. Now, to put together a triple threat match with so many spots, a triple threat tag team match with so many spots, like, they're bound to make a mistake, or the wrong person's in the ring at the wrong time, and it's like, well, you got to take the move now, or whatever the case is, or as per what we planned, I've got to pin you. Like, it's a mistake, innit? So, yes, we know fans are very quickly to jump on something and this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, I guess at this point, we still know, no matter who was supposed to be in the ring, this was supposed to be the end result anyway.
Right.
It's just a technicality. Now, yes, Tony just could have just come out and said the referee's decision is final, and that's it. Ultimately, that's what he has said. So, that's all it takes. This is wrestling. This is scripted, and that's it. These are my champions, and we move forward. It could play into a story. It very well might, with obviously the Bucks saying, well, we weren't pinned, or whatever the case is. They may just use it here or there, or use it in a promo flippantly, like, well, I wasn't even a legal man, but just move on from there, because AEW do tend to address that kind of stuff. But obviously we still got the moving parts of Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Are they actually getting on? Are they actually mates?
Still got that going.
It's still bubbling in the background. And looking a bit further down the line, fans were a bit like, well, we're happy for Swerve and Keith Lee, but they're behaving like, we were promised at All Out we're meant to get FTR versus the Young Bucks. So why are these guys champions now? So there's a lot here that they can do, even if this is going to be somewhat of a shorter run, because September is All Out, if they're not planned for that. With the story of their own, hardships within their relationships, and then, Young Bucks wanting the title back, or these guys saying you pinned the wrong man. There's a lot for them to work with over the next few weeks, so it should be interesting.
It's a good thing that there are so many avenues that they can go down. It can play into it as being a very good thing. If one little decision kind of goes wrong, it could kind of all fall apart as well. But I guess my question now is, do we get FTR versus Swerve and Lee? Is that the match that, as much as everyone was kind of hoping for Box and FTR number 55, do we get FTR versus Swerve and Lee? Is that still enough to kind of put bombs on seats, I guess, for All Out?
I would say so. However, it seems and rumored as if something bigger was being planned. From what all the rumors online say, this was supposed to be a tag team main event. Young Bucks versus FTR, all the gold on the line. Winner walks away with everything.
Woo.
So FTR versus Swerve and Keith Lee would be a fantastic match.
Yep.
It's not a main event. If you're gonna have that as your match, then I'm guessing that the world champion probably main events then, or whatever the case is. So I think it's not the money match that people want to see. Like, beyond these titles and these guys obviously wrestling each other, this is the end of the trilogy of FTR and Young Bucks. Each team have won one match. This is kind of to crown who is the best tag team in the world, along with all the titles in the world to go with it. I think that's what people were looking forward to. And it's what I want to see, if I'm completely honest. I do want to see that. But it's just like, now, how do we book Swerve and Lee to not just be, obvious transitional champions in all of this? Like, let's give them a good story. Like we said, there's a couple avenues we can go by. And, ultimately, this could be a high level WWE can they coexist storyline, but obviously done a lot better than what we get over there in WWE. So yeah.
Right. I while you're correct, where the masses would rather want and were hoping for the Bucks versus FTR, and as you said, it would have been their third match, we call it the rubber match, I guess. No one would. I don't think anyone would doubt Keith Lee and Swerve versus FTR would not be a great match. It would definitely be a great match, regardless. I guess for me, the issue is not so much how the match would go or how good the matches would be, but more so how well established Lee and Swerve are. One, as a team; two, as just AEW talent in general. And that's where the difference is. They have enough time possibly to make that happen. Do they care about making that happen? As you said, does it just feel like they're transitional champions? It's not looking great in that respect, at least anyway. But then, is there a possibility? We're doing, again, not what AEW do often, but we're kind of possibly a hot potato, the tag team championship, to then eventually do get Bucks, FTR, All Out, all titles on the line, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But then my other question is this. With FTR holding every other championship that there is, do we need to have them win the AEW championship? They've been AEW champions before. Yes, we kind of want this whole, belt collector scenario kind of thing going on with them holding, what would it be? 6, 7 championships?
Titles? No, not 7. Unless you're counting actual physical belts. But AEW title, AAA title, Ring of Honor title, IWGP tag titles.
Yep.
I think that's it. Four promotions for belts. Yeah.
Right. Do we need to see that? Do we have to see that? Yes, it's nice, but they've got other things going on. What would then happen if they've got every single one of them? One of these promotions kind of have to lose out in some way or get less, have less time with their tag team belts and blah, 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 and FTR being spread thin and all the rest of it. Would it be wise for them to actually have these championships? As much as it's great in our minds, would it be wise?
They don't need the AEW tag team championships. However, they have started this
Very true.
train, and they've
Very
started
true.
this without it being in their home promotion, which is AEW. The first belt that they acquired in all of this was the AAA. They got the Ring of Honor. They obviously recently picked up the IWGP titles. It's now like, well, you're champions everywhere else. Why aren't you actually champions right here
Where
where
you are.
you belong?
Or if, in the words of Bianca Belair, where you actually go.
Yeah, exactly. so it's almost like, yeah, they need to become champions here in AEW to round off the story.
Right.
And yeah, it doesn't really matter who is going to be champion at the time. To round off the story, whoever it is
FTR
has to be collateral damage.
Yeah, straight away.
So I'm for it. I think they've worked really hard. They've put on some great matches this year, and it's the due rewards. It's just, you know, maybe they don't do it. Maybe they actually hold off on the young bucks at FTR, because there has been a pattern emerging over the past, I would say, 6 months or so, where AEW aren't actually pulling the trigger when they think, when everyone thinks that they should.
Right.
Like even with
true.
Keith Lee and Swerve, we thought Double or Nothing for sure they'll become champions there, and you know, shock horror, this happened here. Young Bucks became tag team champions a month ago. That was a bit of a shock out of nowhere. We've seen the TNT title just here, there, and everywhere over the past year. Obviously, through injuries, the world title has been affected as well in places. So, you know, maybe they are trying a bit more of a different feel than, you know, just giving us what we expect when we expect it. Maybe this Young Bucks FTR match doesn't happen till Full Gear later on this year in November. Who knows?
Interesting scenario. It's going to be interesting again to see how they use Lee and Swerve. Again, you know, the win was kind of out of nowhere. They've got this whole, you know, we've kind of not necessarily had an answer to this whole, can they work together properly? Maybe felt as though we kind of had an answer because they won the tag team championships, but there's still there's still major possibility for that type of storyline to kind of carry on and maybe be, you know, the reason why they lose it eventually at some point, whether that be long term, short term, or whatever. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Let's move our attentions a little bit now to back over to the other side. WWE on Raw last night. It's very weird. This very weird thing. So Raw was in Tampa, right, yesterday? Tampa, Florida, and of course, we well and much know now that Titus O'Neil is from Tampa, and he's a massive ambassador for both WWE and Tampa itself. You know, working with kids and in education, and impoverished kids and all that type of stuff. Brilliant stuff that he does, and very well established over the last few years. So it kind of made sense that, you know, Titus comes out and addresses the home crowd, and everyone gets excited to see Titus. But just looking at Mex's face before I even say anything, it was very interesting to hear the type of stuff that he was saying. Left out of nowhere. Was there any real point? And we kind of have an idea as to what the point was. Mex, you saw it first. I kind of only knew about it after seeing your tweets. You tell us kind of what was said. Why? What the hell was it all about?
They've promoted him, I guess the word is, to this global ambassador. Which is, you know, congrats on him. He's been doing a lot of humanitarian work. Even obviously at the last, was it the last WrestleMania? He was given the Warrior Award, or WrestleMania before that, he was given the Warrior Award for his humanitarian work. So big up Titus. But the timing and everything is shocking. In the last week, the Vince McMahon rumors and stuff have even intensified. There's more rumors, more allegations and stuff coming forward. And listen, the long and short of it, I'm just gonna say it, is don't use my people as your puppet, bruv.
Trust me.
Like that, don't do that. Like it baffles me that Titus is coming out and opening a show. And I mean, I don't know whether to get onto Titus for somewhat, playing along with this or accepting this as well. But a new CEO has been named in this company. Since she's been named, Stephanie McMahon, as CEO, where has Stephanie McMahon been to open up Raw, SmackDown, NXT? Have we seen her on TV? Any type of programming? She's come out, she's had the one little press release saying that, she wants to continue doing good work in the company, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first person that I need to see on my TV before you start trying to use other people and spreading your message with other people as your puppet. I think they've put Titus in they probably made somewhat of a fool of him doing this. Again, Titus is obviously congrats in your role and that, but I really don't know where he felt. Maybe he just saw, okay, cool opportunity, let me just take it. Even if he knew deep down this isn't the best of scenarios. But it just baffles me as to why Stephanie hasn't stepped out and done this kind of thing and someone else ultimately has. It doesn't sit right with me. Like, I mean, I'm always gonna keep it PG here, but I wasn't happy. I really wasn't happy. Like, and I've usually tried to just watch wrestling for wrestling, and not kind of get caught up in these other kind of social matters and this, that, and the other that happens. And I just thought this was a really nasty tactical move. And a trap almost that Titus has fallen into.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, obviously, he's come out and it was all this type of talk of, WWE isn't gonna mention anything about politics or race or any other thing that's divisive and blah blah blah. For what reason? Bro. For what reason? And even with these allegations that Vince has done this, that, and the misdemeanors with women and paying them off and 12 million being paid off to different women, blah, blah, blah. It still actually had nothing to do with what Titus said, but we all knew why Titus was saying it. This whole, I guess the last line was kind of like the nail in the coffin as to why he was saying it. WWE is all about having fun, or us having fun together, or something like that. I mean, even that, you could spin that into what we've been doing. Exactly. Anyway, so it was, and again, we're putting Titus in this space where we kind of can't refuse because these people pay him, this is his job, it's in his hometown, blah, blah, blah. All these kind of little traps where we can't necessarily say no. And as NK has alluded in the comments as well, we've got to bear in mind that I think it was about maybe 6 or 7 years ago now. Vince suspended Titus for what was the smallest thing.
Chivalry.
Absolute madness. And now you use it. I just don't understand why we're doing this and why we think it's okay to do it and all of that. It's this whole blatant. I don't want to say racism, but it's kind of almost like this whole thing of, it's him and it's so whatever.
It's
He's
just
a black guy,
proper.
So.
Yeah, it just. It's hot enough, bro. My blood is boiling at this point. I really just thought, okay, Titus is opening up. I think they had said that they're in Tampa. Good reception. And then once he started talking and saying like the stuff you mentioned, WWE's all about this, that, and the other, and we don't get involved in this, that, and the other. And I said, my brother, they've taken you for a mugu. As we would say in Nigeria, you're a mugu. You're an idiot. Like they've taken you for a mug. Like really and truly, it's not nice. And he's trying to make the best out of a bad situation. I'm sure of it, but ultimately, I don't understand why he is doing this. And the whole CEO that you guys have appointed, where is she?
Right.
You're not sending your daughter into the cauldron to come and spit some nonsense promo, but you're sending this guy.
Right.
I don't know.
It's cringeworthy is the nicest way to put it. I don't know how I don't know where you kind of go from it. I'd love to know how Titus himself feels about the whole thing. Whether he took it on not thinking much of it, and then after it happened, he's like, "Oh, what did I just do?" You know what I mean? I really regret. It's just baffling to me as to what that whole thing really was. I just don't get it at all. Just
Very
don't
weird.
get it at all. Very, very weird indeed. Moving on just a little bit more, and we're staying again with WWE. Someone else who kind of knows who she is. Of course, we had this whole thing about 2 months ago now where Naomi and Sasha Banks kind of walked out, very unhappy with direction they were given, pushed back as to where they wanted to go and all that kind of stuff, and decided, right, we're done with this. Walked out, left their then tag team title belts, women's tag team title belts on the desks of John Laurinaitis, and walked out. Since then, we've heard rumors of them being released, doing other things and all that kind of stuff. It's come out recently. Sasha's going to be making her first appearance since walking out of WWE. I think it's some kind of convention or the other. I can't remember what it was. But then also we heard that Sasha Banks is demanding 30 grand per appearance.
It's not enough.
It sounds mad in our minds. When you first say it, it sounds crazy. Yeah, and to put it in pro wrestling terms, the only other people who make non-wrestling appearances and ask for that much are the likes of Hogan, Ric Flair, John Cena. That are the only people that ask for more than that.
Banks.
Now we're adding Sasha Banks. That's amazing to me. But then here's the other thing that I found out as well, that with Sasha Banks being also very much connected to the Mandalorian and those types of conventions and other people that are also in those types of shows, whether bigger names and some that are smaller names than Sasha Banks, they actually demand more than that or around the same type of price tag. So when you put it in that term, as you said, it's not enough.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. But for me, this whole thing is encouraging simply in the sense that Sasha Banks knows her worth. And for me, that is the beautiful thing about this whole thing. It's upsetting, not even worrying, it's upsetting. And we kind of knew, but I guess this is kind of a bit of confirmation that she's not going to be making any wrestling appearances for a very long time.
Yeah. Especially
in the near future. We know that now almost for a fact. But to know that she has put that price tag on her name is like, right, I know exactly who I am. We ain't playing. This is it. What are your thoughts on this whole situation in terms of her price tag? Obviously you kind of mentioned that already, but then also, the future for Sasha Banks.
First, I'm going to start with NK's comment here. He says, I've been waiting for this Sasha Banks conversation. The way I've seen sections of the fans discredit Sasha's legacy in WWE, she's the goat of that women's division. Pay her what she deserves. Pay her more than what she deserves. Right. And add tax as well.
Right.
Because
Sasha tax.
Yes, brother, people need to realize, firstly, they've said that what's been reported is Naomi and Sasha's WWE contracts have been frozen. We already knew they weren't being paid from that. So they've been frozen. They're already out of pocket, right? And into spending their own money with no re-up on that. Now they've said, depending on if they can get Sasha out of this contract earlier or not, I think it seems like they've negotiated she can do appearances like this one. However, she can't actually wrestle till next year. So that seems to be some type of contractual thing that they're building in if they're going to release her, right? I think her contract is actually up as of January next year anyway. So that probably falls in line. Listen, 30K isn't a number that her and her team would have sat down and just kind of went 30K.
Right.
There is maths
Right.
behind this stuff. They will.
Right.
I've kind of studied somewhat of influencer marketing and stuff like that. They would be looking at her numbers on social media, her engagement
Yes.
and stuff like that. Like if she's going to attend, what is the footfall, the traffic that she can bring in? They would see, all right, if we're gonna do this or hold this product or hold this event or be in this place, what is that gonna do for you numbers wise? And my client needs to be remunerated, you know, that fits. And for everything that Sasha does online, it equals 30k.
More.
Like, and that is what these people have said. It might have equaled 40k, and she's giving them a discount. We won't know. Like, let's be completely honest. Same way as it could equal 20k, and her team have gone in and said 30k, and they negotiate in between. This is how business happens. But people were just immediately, Sasha Banks 30k. How could she charge that? Blah blah blah.
Not even knowing how to even work that out.
Bruv, look outside of your job. Look at what happening in the real world. Like, let's be honest. These people, Sasha Banks is someone that's been on TV, more or less, give or take, every week for 7 years. Are we really questioning? And with all due respect, I would love if someone just dropped 30k in my lap right now. But 30k isn't like money that moves mountains.
No,
in the
not,
landscape
it's not,
of show business. Let's be completely honest. 30k is a thing. SDK08 says in the chat, poor people.
Exactly. Well, no, it's very true. Because here's the thing as well. As a man growing up in this world where I've not had the biggest job on the planet, as you just said, if someone's to drop 30k into my lap, oh my days, I'd feel as though the heavens have opened, God is smiling on me and only me and all that kind of stuff. But when you stop and think, bro, look at football, for example, especially now in this day and age, an average football player and a below average football player these days gets 30k a week. So for her to make one appearance and get one payment of 30k, when other men that are not so great in their field are getting that every single week.
Exactly.
It's nothing. It literally is nothing.
We need to remember as well, where she's not wrestling, she can only then rely on these conventions and other public appearances. So that 30k has to stretch until whenever the next payment comes or whenever the next event is happening that she's called for. Like, people need to relax and stop watching her pocket off of people's pockets. Like, this is what she has to do. This is what she is worth. Right? So, like, let's just let Sasha be great. And, you know, maybe we'll see her turn up one day in a ring again, wherever it may be, or moving on to something bigger and better. Like, God forbid she ever strikes a whole Hollywood film and it's get reported she gets paid X amount of million. And people are like, what? She got paid how much for just a 90-minute film? Like, bruv, it's going to happen. So people just need to relax and get used to greatness.
Listen, bro, I expect the invoice, the Sasha Banks logo at the top. It says appearance at whatever convention, 50k. And then in red, blueprint discount, 20k, total 30k. Bro, are you mad? There's no way 30k is just the legit price. It has to be. It must be more than that. It must be more than that.
I'm saying it could be a discount, or it could be the starting price, and we negotiate from there. No one will ever know. It's not our business. Like, this is her money. This is her livelihood. Just let her earn her money in peace, man.
It's madness. It's absolute madness. Absolute madness. Speaking of ladies and numbers, the other lady I have to big up, especially when it comes to her numbers, is Jade Cargill. Over the weekend, Jade Cargill surpassed 500 days unbeaten in AEW and, you know, in general in her career, because she kind of basically started pro wrestling in AEW. I think she probably had like 2 matches before that, like way before anyone knew who she was. She probably didn't even lose those either.
She probably won those.
Actually, yeah, that's true. She probably even lose those either. And that would have been in face-to-face wrestling, owned by Heath Slater and co-owned by Teddy Long.
Yes, Heath Slater was a coach, isn't it? For a minute.
Yes, yeah. Teddy and Heath were coaches. So yeah, so she's surpassed 500 days. I believe it's like 504 now, 505, as of today. Of course, also within that run, she has had 35 matches unbeaten. Is it?
Yeah.
35 and odd, or is it 34?
Maybe a bit more. I think she's on about 38. I think.
No, it's not that far. About
Are you
34,
sure?
35.
Okay, cool.
It's around that. It's around that. It's around that. And obviously, of course, the biggest win in that time is her winning the TBS championship, beating Ruby Soho at the start of the year. I think it was January 5th. This woman, as we say on this show, week in, week out, it's almost like we make sure we find a space in our time to mention this woman and her numbers, whether it be her wins, whether it be her winning streak, whether it be numbers when it comes to the demo numbers and TV numbers and all the rest of it. This woman is just fantastic in every way you can think a pro wrestler, especially a female pro wrestler, is supposed to be. So for her to surpass 500 and kind of eclipse that of another famous streak in Bill Goldberg, who went, I think it was 412. I think I kind of remember that.
Plus 400, yeah.
I writ it all down and I posted it and I just forgotten. It's too many numbers. So, you know, she's done that. Do you think, here's a big question. Do you think, actually, no, I'm going to answer my question myself. I don't think it has the same prestige as Goldberg. My question is, why not?
I would say it's probably just a booking. That's it. Whereas, I mean, and I've said it on record that I'm enjoying more of the TBS scene rather than the women's world title scene at AEW.
Right.
But you can't really compare a Goldberg at that time, you know, when it's like this guy literally burst into the scene. He was killing people in seconds, became US champion, won the world championship, and obviously the prestige of those titles is a bit more as well. He was really something at the time where he came onto the scene. For me, Jade, these next 500 days, whether they're wins or whatever, just her next 500 days are just so important because I would argue somewhat, you know, we're probably about 2 to 3 months into the baddies experiment. And not that it's held her back or anything like that, but it definitely hasn't progressed her.
Right.
It's almost just been more of an exercise to put others on TV around her. It hasn't really paid any dividend. It hasn't really paid any value, in my opinion. Obviously, we've lost Red Velvet to it as well. We've got Layla Gray right now, kind of filling in. I'm not too sure if she's on board or if she's not. And yeah, I think the title reign subsequently has just felt a bit flat recently. There's not a much, like, obviously Athena came in, Chris Statlander was there. Neither have had a match with her yet, so we're still kind of waiting on whatever's happening there. Yeah, so I feel like at this point, not quite a crossroads, but this next 500 days, even if she's to drop that title, and where does she go from here? Like the next 500 days for Jade is going to be very, very critical in establishing her, because I doubt she's going to be champion for the next 500 days. So, something is going to change in her trajectory, and she needs to recover, find another way to do things, make the baddies make more sense, and maybe use them a bit more, just to kind of give her character a next step sort of thing. And even the addition of Stokely, just do something a bit different that's going to really kind of take a next step into Jade's progression. Her progression might be dropping this belt and then moving on to the world title. Who knows? But yeah, the next 500 days, like I say, is very critical, and obviously someone that we're all very invested in.
Here's two things that I just thought of as you were talking. A way to continue her on an undefeated streak, but yet she could still lose the title. If we kind of get a triple threat match involving Statlander and Athena, one of those two pins the other. Jade doesn't lose.
Yeah.
Jade's never pinned. Jade's never doesn't submit. All the rest of it. There's that possibility. Whether that happens or not, it's probably a good way to do it. But it's a way to do it.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking as you were talking and we're talking about, you know, elevating her and using the baddies a little bit better and having Stokely around, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know why I never thought of this. I don't think we've even ever said it on here, but it's very Bloodline-esque. And it probably should be a little bit more Bloodline-esque in the sense where, you know, we get another good run. Because to us, we're kind of almost expecting her to lose to Statlander at some point, or, you know, very soon. But maybe we get a thing where she doesn't because the baddies get involved. And for the next maybe 200 days, a little bit longer, 300 maybe, or whatever, we get this whole thing where she doesn't lose, and probably more because the baddies are getting involved. You know, Stokely plays the Paul Heyman role. She's Roman Reigns. The baddies are the Usos, however it works, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we've even got, you know, we've now almost got a third person. And we've been talking with the Bloodline about Solo Sikoa coming in. I mean, it's so parallel, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The possibilities are there. But yeah, I'm not too sure how it's going to go, how long it's going to last. I don't see it lasting very long in realistic terms. But at the same time, for me, if she does lose, the next step has to be going towards the AEW Women's World Championship.
Yeah.
It would make no sense otherwise, basically. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree. You know, even with just as you were saying that, it just reminded me back of like 2015, Seth Rollins, WWE champion. He had J&J security by his side.
Very true.
And I don't want Jade Cargill to turn into like a cowardly heel. Like she can still be a very dominant heel, but you know, sometimes it's just the defense after the defense after the defense is taking a toll on her. She needs the help of the baddies, and eventually that could actually help build up someone like Chris Statlander that overcomes not just Jade Cargill but the baddies and everyone, and makes that successor look actually stronger in the process. So yeah, again, there needs to be a little change of direction or something to kind of make things interesting. But yeah, congratulations on a terrific first 500 days.
Yeah, man, for sure. Big congratulations to Jade. On that great note, we've come to the end of our show. Our time is over. It was over about 2 minutes ago. What he gets. This is WrstlXtra. You've been listening on Affinity Extra. You're watching currently and live on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Check out this guy, Mex, the WrestleManiac himself, if you will, on WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Of course, click that notification bell, subscribe, all that good stuff, and follow him on Instagram, WrestleManiac UK, WrestleManiac.uk.
Yep.
And on Twitter, WrestleManiac UK. You can follow me, of course, if you're not already. Don't bother. No joke. Follow me, Black Wrestling Alliance, on Instagram, and BWA Dazzle on Twitter. Of course, as always, I've mentioned the Mandem Wrestlings. Follow them also on YouTube, Wrestlings, and click the notification bell as always. Folks, this has been our time. You have been watching WrstlXtra, and we will see you again soon.
See you later, guys.